All right, let's dive into the story of one of the absolute giants of music, Joseph Haydn. Now, you've probably heard the name, but trust me, his actual life story is way more wild and dramatic than you might think. It is a genuine rags-to-riches epic filled with struggle, pure genius, and just an unbelievable amount of fantastic music.
So this is the big question, right? This is at the heart of Haydn's entire life. I mean, he didn't come from money or a powerful family. So how in the world did this kid from the middle of nowhere become one of the most famous composers in history? Well, let's find out.
Okay, so our story kicks off in a tiny little village in Austria, where a young boy with a truly astonishing talent is about to take on the world pretty much all by himself. Just look at how fast his entire world gets turned upside down. His parents see he has this incredible gift for music, so at just 6 years old, they send him away to study. By 8, he's made it into the most famous choir in Vienna. The kid is a prodigy, no question. But then, his voice changes. And just like that, at 17, he's kicked out, onto the street. Seriously, try to picture this. You're 17 years old, you're in a massive city, and you have no money, no connections, and nowhere to live. Haydn had to survive by giving music lessons to whoever would take them and playing his violin in little street bands just to make enough money to eat. But through all that, he was obsessed. He was teaching himself, staying up late at night, devouring every music book he could get his hands on. And that struggle, you can bet it's what gave his music such incredible emotion later on. So after years of just scraping by, of being a freelance musician, Haydn finally gets his big break. And listen, this wasn't just any job. This was the kind of opportunity that would completely define the next chapter of his life and his music. For nearly 30 years, think about that for a second. For 3 decades, Haydn had one employer, the Esterhazys, who were one of the richest and most powerful noble families in all of Europe. This one job gave him something he'd never had before: stability. As their Kapellmeister, which is basically the music director in charge of everything, his life was music, 24/7. He was leading the orchestra, performing, and constantly writing new stuff on demand. He even had to wear a uniform, just like the other servants. And get this, he lived at the family's enormous, super remote palace. It was incredible, but it was also like living in a beautiful, golden cage. And this quote from Haydn himself just says it all. He knew that his situation, this limitation, was actually his greatest strength. Because he was so far away from the big music scenes in cities like Vienna, he couldn't just copy whatever was trendy. He had no choice but to invent his own style. So his isolation became the secret ingredient for his totally unique and revolutionary sound. So what was it about Haydn's music that was so special? I mean, it wasn't just good, it was game-changing. He didn't just write new songs, he fundamentally changed the rules of what music could even be.
Okay, first up, the symphony. Before Haydn came along, a symphony was usually just a short little piece of music at the beginning of a show, kind of like the opening theme song for a TV series. It was nice, but it wasn't the main event. Haydn took that simple idea and blew it up into this huge, powerful 4-part emotional journey for a full orchestra. He made it the main event.
And he gave it a really clear structure that composers, believe it or not, still use today. You've got a fast, exciting opening, then a beautiful, slow, emotional second part, followed by a dance-like section, and it all wraps up with a huge, energetic finale. He pretty much wrote the blueprint for the modern symphony. And he did the exact same thing for the string quartet. Before him, a string quartet was basically a violin solo with 3 other instruments just playing backup. But Haydn thought, no way, that's not interesting. He turned it into a real, intimate conversation between 4 equal partners, 2 violins, a viola, and a cello. Everybody got a voice. But here's the thing. Haydn wasn't just some stuffy rule maker. He had this amazing sense of humor, and he loved to sneak jokes into his music. So imagine you're at a fancy concert. The lights are low, the music is soft and beautiful, and maybe, just maybe, your eyes are starting to get a little heavy. Bam! Out of nowhere, this massive, loud chord from the entire orchestra, plus a huge whack on the drum, jolts you wide awake. That is from his Symphony No. 94, which everyone now calls the Surprise Symphony. And yeah, he put that in there completely on purpose, as a musical prank to wake up anyone dozing off. It's that playfulness that really connected him with his audience. So after those 30 years of working pretty much in isolation, Haydn finally enters the last and most famous part of his life. He goes from being a respected composer to a full-blown international celebrity.
And in the process, he cements his legacy forever.
Back in Vienna, Haydn strikes up this incredible friendship with another genius, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And even though Haydn was 24 years older, they had this deep mutual respect. Haydn once told Mozart's father that his son was the greatest composer he knew. And Mozart, he so admired Haydn that he dedicated an entire set of 6-string quartets to him. It was a true friendship built on a shared love of music. When his boss, the Prince Esterhazy, passed away, Haydn was finally free to travel. He immediately got an invitation to London, and when he got there, he was treated like a rock star. I mean, literally. The crowds went crazy for him. For these trips, he wrote 12 of his most famous symphonies, made an absolute fortune, and even got an honorary doctorate from Oxford University. The guy was a global superstar.
And let's just pause for a second to appreciate the sheer volume of his work. How many symphonies did this one man write in his lifetime? 106. That number is just staggering. It's a monument to his incredible creativity and his relentless work ethic.
His influence was so massive, so foundational for everything that came after, that musicians for generations have called him Papa Haydn. It's this perfect, affectionate nickname that shows not just respect, but genuine love for the man who basically raised both the symphony and the string quartet into the art forms we know today.
And that kind of brings us to a final thought for you. Haydn literally created the blueprint that composers followed for generations. So who does that today? Which modern artist has had such a huge impact that you could really call them the papa or mama of pop or rock or hip-hop? It's pretty interesting to think about.